meeting to order. This guy has enough to thank before.
Just real quick before we get started, Andrea Hughes asked me to announce tomorrow is the spaghetti and meatball dinner. Starts at 3:30.
3:37.
Benefiting the senior center. Anybody's hungry tomorrow, come on over. I had it last year. It was quite good. Tickets will be on sale at the door. Be at 50/50. She's got 50/50 tickets here as well. Anybody wants one, see Andrea right after the meeting.
Thank you.
I don't think he's moving.
Check them out.
Hello?
There we go.
All right, Scott, call the roll, please.
Mayor Manning.
Present.
Councilman Petroselli.
Present.
Councilman McGrady.
Present. Would the clerk please read the minutes from our last meeting?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we dispense to the minutes of the previous meeting.
I second that.
Accepting them as written, call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor?
Councilman McGrady.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor. We're going to take a moment and recognize some of the city youth that helped out with two events. Keep Fleet Neat Day, which is an annual event, and soon to become annual event, is the painting of the bleachers at Reds Field. Maybe not every year. Charles, want to say anything on this? Is Charles' idea for these certificates. Great idea.
No, I really don't have anything else to say except for I was so impressed and grateful for all the kids that came and volunteered, and I know that it seemingly that everybody had a great time in doing so. So I appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you.
All right, to not have a mob scene, first up is the entire Watervliet High baseball team and staff. With the staff out.
I needed the sign.
It's a steel sign.
Jane, do it, or did you help too?
I helped. Yeah, no, we all did it. We did it as a team. Did you really help?
Oh, yeah. You hold that to Squeezing that coach grip. There you go, much better.
I got a few on set.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, guys. You don't have to stay if you don't like.
I'm saying
Okay, well, we'll get rid of the guys. We'll call the girls up.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See ya. Okay. Now we'll do the female contingent. We'll get you all up here for a group shot. Catherine Phillips, if she's here. Giovanna Law. There she is. Adriana Keith Evans. Adriana, not here. Okay. You'll take hers. Got it. Cadence. Cadence.
Are not here.
Okay. Nor Addison.
Nor Addison.
All right. You got all the questions. McKenna Dennis. Yeah. Mackenzie Patrick. You take Catherine?
I'll take Bobby.
How about Gabriella Jo Law? Did I already call her? Gabriella. Actually, Gabriella is a two-time award recipient because she did both events. Giovanna, Brianna, you taking it?
And then she'll take this.
Let's take these two.
Gabby.
Yeah. Great, all right.
Mike. Okay.
I got it, cross slide this way, so. There we go, there we go. Thank you very much, Gina. That'll clear a room.
For those of you that want to reciprocate your support to the baseball team, they do play tomorrow night at the Joe. They're playing Mahonison at 7 p.m., I believe. So if you want to get out and show their support for what they did for the city, that'd be a great way to show your support. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the Joe.
And Wednesday, May 8th at Cooperstown.
Ooh, Wednesday, May 8th in Cooperstown.
Is that for a benefit?
That's in the afternoon.
Yes, tomorrow is the Coaches versus Cancer, I believe, correct? Yes. There we go.
Nice. Very good. That was good. All right, so we're on to old business. Reports of officers and committees.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight we will begin reports of officers and committee with our 6th of 7 2018 department reviews. Tonight we welcome Paul Labossiere, Building Inspector and Zoning Code Officer, to present on the Building and Code Department. So Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. As Jeremy said, my name is Paul Labossiere. I'm the supervisor of the Building Department, Code Enforcement Department. Just tell you a little bit about our department and what we do. Our department has 4 people. It's Janice Myers, the administrative assistant, myself as an inspector, Jay Chaplin as an inspector, and Steve Hoffman as an inspector. We have 2 full-time code inspectors, and Steve is a part-time inspector. Basically, so let me start with Janice's responsibilities. She has multiple hats in our department. She is, as I said, our administrative assistant, so basically she prepares our documents for court, acts as a court reporter. She logs in the fines and notes on each property, sends corresponding letters when they are appropriate if she needs to send the reassigned dates or no-show dates, also additional information as needed. She maintains records of results and fines from individual cases, and she also has to produce a bi-monthly report by the court. Let's see here. So her bi-monthly reports for the court are finances, building codes in court, vital statistics for the finance department as well. In our office, she works the window. When people come in, she usually helps them with inspections, scheduling inspections, accepting building permit applications, giving out the building permit applications, things of that nature. On the phone as well, she'll answer any questions that she can or forward them to us if she can't answer the questions. She maintains the documents, forms, filings, and phones. Again, scheduling building permits and applications for us. She does a lot of scheduling and things like that. She also is the registrar of vital statistics. So her responsibilities there, she is responsible for processing current death certificates. She has the maintenance of the electronic death registration system, which I believe is new. So there are paper death certificates and electronic ones that come into the office. She maintains both of those. She does genealogy searches, reproduction of birth certificates, death and marriage certificates on request. She also does the monthly reporting and finances in those categories. She has weekly mailings to New York State and Albany County for that. She's also the clerk to the assessor. So there she's responsible for the overflow work of the assigned by the assessor. She processes current home sales. So twice a month we get home sales that come in. Janice goes through and changes all the information in our municipal system and the RPS system to show the new ownership so that everything is updated. Again, here is she maintains the records on the RPS, the real property system. She's responsible for filing for senior citizens for STAR and property exemptions. So at that time of year, she is swamped in early March, I believe it is, where she is just swamped with people coming in looking for their exemptions and setting up their star exemptions. She's assistance in completing requests for title companies and attorney offices upon sales. So when they call and ask if there's any violations or open fees or anything like that, any open permits on these things, Janice is usually the one that helps them out by looking these things up. She's also responsible for obtaining property photos and updating the records with that as well in the RPS and municity system. And basically any mailings from our office come from Janice. That's for the clerk to the assessor. That's that. So she wears a lot of hats in our office. She is a tremendous help. She's the one mostly in the office who, when people come in, she takes care of all that for us. Like I said, in our department we have 2 full-time inspectors, myself and Jay Chaplin, and then Steve is part-time. His hours are not to exceed 20 hours a week. We are the ones that take care of all the inspections and things like that. We also do work the windows, we work the phones. When people come in, we do help them out. Phone calls come in, we do take complaints and stuff over the phone. We do have, so I touched on that, on the complaints, we do multiple complaints. We do recommend and actually require that all complaints come in and have a form that's filled out. We do request that be done. But if a complaint does come over by the phone or an email, we do respond to every complaint. So Steve, myself, or Jay will do that. We also go out and write tickets, mostly for garbage and bulk items, things of that nature. And we send out notices of violations. In 2018, it was basically Steve and myself in the office. We were understaffed. Jay came on late in the year and was training most of that time. We did 363 complaints last year in 2018. Complaints by tenants, complaints by neighbors, again, garbage, bulk items, things of that nature. So the complaints would either be notice of violation, a court summons immediately, or a court appearance ticket. We do court twice a month. We do the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. That usually takes us a few hours in court, depending on the load of who shows up and what the court load is. We also do multiple inspections. So we have multiple dwelling operating permit inspections, residential occupancy permit inspections, and residential unit compliance certificate inspections. Multiple dwelling operating permit inspection is a building of 3 or more units. They are done every 3 years. Last year we did about 20 of those. So not every building is up every year, so we did about 20 last year. Residential occupancy permit inspections are very similar to those. It's a 1 or 2 family dwelling that's rented. We do the whole property. That's for, like I said, 1 and 2 family dwellings. We did 186 of those last year. We did those, like I said, every 3 years. So not every building is due every year, so we kind of keep them on a rotating schedule and try to keep up with those as best as possible. We are a little behind again because we were understaffed. I do expect those numbers to go up. The residential unit compliance certificate inspection, or RUC, that's one of our big ones. That's when the tenants change hands. Every time a tenant in an apartment changes occupants, the owner is supposed to give us a call or come down and pay the $40 inspection fee. We do this inspection. Last year in 2018, we did 650 of those inspections. Again, basically Steve and myself, Jake, towards the end of the year. We are responsible for fire safety inspections. So we have a semi-annual inspection, which is for businesses that have ANSEL systems. We do those twice a year. We go there, basically make sure that the companies come in and check the ANSEL systems and everything's up to date. We have an annual fire safety inspection, which are on places of public assembly. We do those every year. Again, we go through what we check, the smoke detectors, the exit signs and lights, fire extinguishers, make sure everything's up to date. We also have a commercial fire safety inspection, which is on businesses. Those are good for about 3 years. So like I said, again, they're not done every year, so we've done probably, I don't know how many that we've done of those, maybe 30 last year, but they're every 3 years. We are responsible for all permits, so any permit that comes into the city comes through our office, other than day permits. So we are responsible for the application, acceptance, and then the review of the application. Also, all inspections associated with the job that is done. They're very specific. Some are a few inspections, others get a little lengthy, depending on the size of the job. Last year, we did 226 permits. We're responsible for vacant building inspections. We have roughly 100 vacant buildings in the city. We have to identify them, we track them through spreadsheets and through RPS and Municity system. We also ensure the maintenance of the vacant buildings and lots. We send out registration letters every year. They have to register the vacant building every year. It's a $1,500 fee. We send those letters out upon the annual date, their anniversary date of the vacancy. We collect any fees and process those for the vacant buildings. And again, we do all the inspections, upon request. If a vacant building is found to be open or things like that, we get called, we go out and we do the inspections. So we just kind of, every so often we go around and make sure the grass and the maintenance is kept up, and inspections of that nature, make sure the buildings are being maintained. Another thing we do is the CDBG grant inspections, which is with Dave Wheatley and Leslie Foster. We go out and we do the initial inspection with them. We write a report, submit that to the grant people. They make sure that everything, all the code violations are fixed before the actual work is done at the home. That is also permit application and review. We do that, and then all the inspections that go with that permit. Again, some of them are a little less than others, but we do multiple inspections with those. And just at the end of last year, I also became the zoning code officer. So that's entitled, I just have to enforce all the zoning code issues, make sure that they're all being enforced correctly. We ensure that the variances and special permits granted are being followed. And I have to attend all the zoning board meetings. We have to keep up with our training. We have 24 hours in-service training a year. And we have to keep up on that. I'm trying to think. Basically, that's about all I have right now. If you have any questions, I'm glad to help you take any questions.
I think that's a lot of information for everybody to process.
That's also
Yeah.
sorry.
I think one thing to keep in mind is, the building department is, building inspection, and it's also code enforcement. So it's really kind of two departments tied together as one. And as Paul was mentioning what Janice Meyer does, that's a lot of what you see in City Hall is really wearing multiple hats. People are really taking on 3 or 4 roles rather than having 3 or 4 people. It's taking on multiple roles and handling a lot of tasks. So just a great job by Paul. I'm sure Janice really appreciates you talking about all the things that she does. And I know that she was mentioned at a previous meeting for all the work she does, especially with the STAR program. So a lot of work done in the building and code department, trying to keep up on all of those tasks and all of the enforcement of the code. So if you do see something, make sure that you contact the code enforcement department, and they will do their best to get out there and to take care of it.
Questions?
Just want to hear from the floor.
You both just mentioned the STAR system. Do you realize that STAR is changing?
Yes.
Is the city going to ensure that the residents are aware of the new things so they don't end up?
Yeah, so Janice is aware of all the changing rules in that, and we're working together to get the information out to everybody to let them know what's going to be changing for the upcoming years, because there is some significant changes that are being made on that. So yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Next meeting on May 30th will be our final 2018 year in review. David Wheatley will be presenting on the Planning and Community Revitalization Department. He'll be doing that during the public hearing for all of the CDBG grants. So that'll be the last of this year's series of 2018 year in review reports. Appreciate all of the department heads taking the time to come here and explain what they do and what their operations were in 2018 to keep the public and the council informed of all the work that's being done by each department. Mayor, next for the reports of officers and committees, I'd like to give a brief report and update from the Tree Committee. On Friday, April 26th, which was Arbor Day, the City and Tree Committee worked with 6 families to plant 6 new memorial trees on the boulevards on 16th Street. If you haven't been down 16th Street since last week, please take a ride down. Take a look at some new beautiful trees that will mature over the years and continue to grow and enhance the streetscape on 16th Street. Also, I'm happy to announce that the City of Watervliet, through Capital Roots, has received a grant from TD Bank for planting of 50 trees throughout the city. These trees will be planted in parks and along the corridors connecting the parks to present a green corridor throughout the city of Watervliet. Watervliet was one of 9 municipalities chosen through a nationwide grant. 9 other municipalities were chosen in Canada as well. TD Bank is a Canadian company. And the next meeting of the tree committee is this coming Monday, 7 p.m., right here in the Senior Center, and all are welcome. And then finally, I want to officially announce that the City of Watervliet's MS4 draft annual report will be placed on the city website beginning on Monday, and also will also be available in the city clerk's office for review. The report is a draft released for public comment, and all instructions for submitting comments are on the front page of that report. So that is on the website if you'd like to view it, and if you have any comments, please get those in. It's a 30-day comment period, I believe, and then once that's done, that report can be finalized. That is all that I have for reports of officers and committees tonight.
Thank you. Old business?
Although there's no official business in this section of the agenda, I would like to answer some requests that were made by the council after the finance presentation from last meeting that was done by Amanda Austin. The topic of overtime expenses in the public safety department was raised, and I have information available. I did provide the council with some of the information previously through email. Basically what I did was I took the 2017 budget and actual numbers and 2018 budget and actual numbers so that the council's questions could be answered thoroughly here. So I'll go through fire first. In the fire department, the 2017 budget for overtime was $270,000. The 2017 actual expenses for overtime was $263,294. In 2018, the budget was reduced to $250,000 for overtime, and the 2018 actual amount for overtime in the fire department was $244,431. The police department 2017 budget was $267,000. The 2017 actual overtime for police was $507,780. The 2018 budget for police overtime was $300. The 2018 actual amount was $436,405. A couple of notes on that for the police department. The way that we report police overtime was changed in 2017 through the 2017 AUD. Originally, we used to have negative expenditures in there, so it would be was considered to be reduced if money came in to offset that. So that was a change in that year, and then we followed through with that with the 2018 budget. So that's why you see an increase in what the overtime was for the budget. The difference in budget to actual for the police department was covered by increased revenues. So those numbers, seem extremely high for what was there, but we still ended in surplus in the general fund in both of those years, mainly because we had revenues that offset that. So that is the information that was requested. So I wanted to get that report out to each of you today, and feel that old business is the best way to do that. So.
Thank you.
At the last meeting, we had a resolution at the end of the meeting.
Yes.
And do you think we should, I know there's nobody here.
Sure.
I think we should kind of state what it was or what the purpose was.
Yeah, so the council went into executive session to discuss a legal matter. When we came out of executive session, the council voted and approved a resolution hiring Paul Goldman and his firm to represent the city in a assessment grievance for our property that we own out in Guilderland, which had been reassessed and had a significant increase in what the assessment was out there. So the city has entered into a contract with Paul Goldman to represent us in our grievance against the town of Guilderland's assessment to our lands in Guilderland. That brings it down.
Good. It's in the minutes as well, right?
What's that?
That's in the minutes as well.
Yeah.
Jeremy, could you tell the people the assessment value?
Yeah, so before 2018, or prior to this year's roll, the city's assessment out in Gilderland was just above $2 million. The town of Gilderland did a reval of all their properties out in Gilderland, and now the assessed value of that property is $17 million. So it's when I said significant, I really meant that. It's a very significant increase to that, and the ramifications of that are that's what sets what we would pay in taxes, and if the rates were to stay the same, it's between $400,000 and $500,000 increase in our tax costs out in the town of Gilderland. So we'll be working diligently to get that reduced, hopefully back down to where it was previously.
And just a little note too, is if this isn't settled by the time that it takes effect, we'll have to pay that.
Correct. We'll have to pay it and then hopefully get that money back, but we will have to pay it up front if it's not figured out by July 1st.
This year.
This year.
This could be a stupid question. Isn't city property exempt regardless where it's located?
No.
No?
We are exempt from county taxes now at this time due to a resolution by Albany County, but not for local municipalities.
Or school.
About a reservoir?
What?
Or school.
Or school, correct.
Are you talking about a reservoir?
Yes, the reservoir dam, hydro and pump station. Out in Gilderland.
She's learned something tonight.
What was that? I'm just making note of it. What did you learn?
We're not exempt.
You're not exempt.
That's why we're here.
Good. Okay. That's a good round of old business. Sets us up for new business.
All right. In new business, we have resolution number 9612. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approves, ratifies, and confirms the memorandum of agreement executed by the City of Watervliet and the Watervliet Uniformed Firefighters Association, and further authorizes and empowers Mayor Michael P. Manning to execute an agreement between the City of Watervliet and the Watervliet Uniformed Firefighters governing salaries and other economic benefits, terms and conditions of employment for a period of 4 years, beginning January 1st, 2019 and ending December 31st, 2022.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table this resolution pending the final report of the fiscal restructuring board.
There's no second. The motion doesn't carry.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9612 as written.
I'll second it. I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yeah, so this resolution is to ratify a memorandum of agreement between the City of Watervliet and the Watervliet Unified Firefighters Association, the fire union. This was an 8-month process that started back in September. On April 18th, we were able to come to a memorandum of agreement that was then distributed to the council along with a breakdown of the financial implications of this agreement. Some of the bottom line numbers for this agreement, it results in an immediate savings in the 2019 budget. It also results in a reduction to the expected 2020 budget. The givebacks from the union in this contract result in roughly $2,400 per member on average reduction in salary in 2019 due to the removal of specific stipends that are associated with the ambulance service. This agreement continues all services. It also maintains the same manpower for the department. In total, the estimated cost to the taxpayer over the 4-year term of this contract is roughly $60,000, with the majority of that coming in the final year, 2022. I want to thank Director of Finance Mike McNeff, as well as Corporation Counsel Jordan Eubank for their efforts in these negotiations, as well as Jody Legault and his team from the union. Jody is the union president. He was accompanied by 3 members of the union, as well as their attorney, Mike Ravalli, for their efforts as well. I believe this is a win for the taxpayers of the City of Watervliet, and I therefore recommend this memorandum of agreement to the council.
Chairman, you had some sticking points. It took you over a year to get to where we are tonight. What were the sticking points that...
Yeah, so I mean, when we're doing a contract negotiation, we're really talking about everything that's in there, going through. Some of the main goals in this were to reduce the stipends that are in there. Ambulance ride-on stipend, which has a graduated scale depending on the revenue that comes in. Currently, it's $2.50 per man that's on the ambulance, usually a two-man ambulance. And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That was removed. A Green Island stipend, which is $550 per man to provide ambulance service in Green Island. Those were the two stipends that were removed. So a lot of this was, trying to reduce costs to the taxpayer, and of course, to get something out of the contract you give, and so looking at taking out costs to the city and replace that with time off or management type matters, which may put a little bit more pressure on the management, the chief or myself or the captains in there, but reduces the cost to the taxpayers, which was the main goal. Sticking points, similar sticking points to each of the contracts that have been negotiated over the past few years. Co-pay reimbursements is a big one. The city has been aggressive in trying to get co-pay reimbursements removed from the contracts. Unfortunately, we're unsuccessful in doing that, so that was a bit of a sticking point. And then, of course, cost of living increases or percentage raises over the length of the year. So, as I said, money is basically coming out of the pockets of the members. Some of that is being replaced with some time off, but whenever somebody gets money out of the pocket, that certainly is a sticking point, and was probably the biggest strain and contention within the negotiations. But at the end of the day, as difficult as it was, we were really down to the final hours of deciding, whether we were able to come to an agreement, and we were. And once again, I believe it's a good taxpayer-friendly agreement.
I just got a few words to say here, and I'll let you do what you want. I do appreciate some of the members of the fire department here tonight, so you can hear my concerns directly rather than secondhand. I find that just the MOA just unacceptable in that it's not in the best interest of the city of Watervliet and its residents. Having the 4-year contract seems to be a little unrealistic with the pending report of the FRB coming out soon. Makes it difficult to implement possible cost-saving measures that may help further our financial situation. I do realize that we've made the claim that our financial situation has improved, and that is true, but don't forget that that's basically bet on the backs of the residents with a 15% tax increase one year and another 4% the following year. And so the taxpayers got hit with this both the 2 years in a row. Most times you look at a modest 1% pay raise as going as 1 or 2% as being acceptable. And when you're at the top of the pay increases of the entire capital district, I feel that it's basically a little bit of unrealistic that the salaries are more, let's say, controlled. Being that right now, possibly being still the third highest, is still in a fiscally distressed city as us, makes it very difficult to consider. Prior to this, we were given a spreadsheet claiming that our cost savings after 20 years would be significant, and that we should be looking at that. And last year, we had a provision for a permanent health insurance percentage that was in an MOA. That was presented to the city as a cost-saving measure. Now that provision was removed and revised to be this year, so that member no longer would be under that previous provision. We again have that provision in this MOA, and based on its history, you can only say that those kind of provisions are really only short-term. You can never predict anything that's going to, in the sense of being a long-term. Also included in the MOA is an increase in allowable personal time from 40, I believe, to 48 hours. And a terminology altered concerning bereavement leave, which is a very, let's say, considerate and generous time granted. Once again, this is not the norm, and it just can't be given as being extra benefits, which is in a fiscal, it does fiscally impact the taxpayers in one way or the other. I can go on, but it's probably enough right now to be able to say that I can't vote for this contract, and I hope my colleagues agree. I also believe that I'm asking former fireman, Councilman Browdy, who's has a member on the fire department, to recuse himself, just as former Councilwoman Fogarty did when she was faced with the contract issue involving the police department. To sum it up, I do have the utmost respect for our firefighters. But we have to hold the line. We can't afford, nor can we hit our taxpayers every time something goes up. We have no idea what our health insurance increases are going to be over the next 4 years. And with the fiscal restructuring board coming out with some possible recommendations, I think those should be considered before we sign a contract. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anything else? Call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
Opposed?
Councilman McGrady.
For.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Resolution passes 2-1. Up next, we have resolution number 9613. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approves an agreement with Tabner, Ryan, and Kennery LLP, located at 18 Corporate Woods Boulevard, Suite 8, in Albany, New York, commencing on May 2nd, 2019, and ending on December 31st, 2019.
Go ahead, Charles.
I make a motion, Mayor, that I move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
So this is our annual contract with Tabner, Ryan, and Kennery, who represents the city in certiorari claims due to assessment grievances. Certiorari is the hard word to say. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrady.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9614. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby accepts and approves the proposal from Russ Reeves Civil Engineering with an address of P.O. Box 1433 in Troy, New York, for engineering services regarding the rehabilitation of 2112 4th Avenue in Watervliet, New York, contingent on the purchase of 2112 4th Avenue by the City of Watervliet from the Albany County Land Bank Corporation, and further authorizes the expenditure of $8,400 for said engineering services regarding this project, contingent on the purchase of 2112 4th Avenue.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9614 as written.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
So this is part of the home grant that we have received. The grant is to acquire, rehab, and sell 2112 4th Avenue. So this $8,400 that is spoken of in here is covered by the grant and is no cost to the taxpayer.
Jeremy, is Russ Reeves going to actually produce a spec that somebody would bid it on? It's a comprehensive spec from top to bottom?
Yeah, so Russ goes in, puts together the spec. We then put the spec out to bid. We get contractors to bid on the spec, and then Russ also follows through with the construction inspection during this project as well. So he puts together the spec and oversees the construction on the project.
And what's the estimated cost of the construction? What's our budget?
This is, I believe it's $80,000, but I don't want to misspeak there. I don't have that information right in front of me. I don't remember offhand. I can get that information back to you. I can probably get it from David early tomorrow morning.
So this is like 10% of the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, call the roll, Scott.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrady.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9615. The Council of the City of Watervliet hereby accepts the bid and awards the contract for the City of Watervliet Energy Reduction Project LED Lighting Replacement Program to Potentia Management Group, with an office located at 8469 Seneca Turnpike in New Hartford, New York, in the amount of $106,558. The lowest responsible bidder in conformance with the specifications.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
So this is a project that is funded with an $80,000 grant received from NYSERDA. And it's a Clean Energy Communities grant that we received. If you've been at the meetings, I think we've talked about this every meeting for the last 6 months or so. This will replace all city-owned lights in buildings and city-owned street lights and park lights with LED lights. Potentia Management was the lowest responsible bidder and has completed dozens of these projects across the state, and so therefore I recommend this resolution to the council for approval.
And the difference in money, we talked about that.
Yeah, so there's a $26,000 difference in this, so once the council, if the council approves this, I can then begin talks with potential management to see if there's any way that we can get a reduction in what the cost is for this. I do believe there is a slight reduction in cost right off of the top that we will be able to do, but then it will become a matter of whether we want to come up with the money to cover the balance through taxpayer dollars, or if there's other grant funds that are out there, or if we want to look to reduce the amount of work that is done to just have it all covered by the grant. But I'll get that information to the council once I speak to you potentially to see how much we can negotiate this down, and if that's even possible.
If this project is approved, we're going to use less energy,
Correct.
we're going to save money.
Correct. Yes.
We'll see.
And these are the street lights only that we own.
Correct. So really, it's 19th Street is the only street lights that these would take in. It's lights in the parks at Gazebo Park and Hudson Shores.
Okay, call the roll.
Councilman Patrick,
In favor.
Councilman McGrattan,
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9616. The council of the city of Watervliet hereby accepts the bid and awards the contract for roadway resurfacing through the Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program, or CHIPS, to Empire Paving of Schenectady with an address of 1900 Duanesburg Road, Duanesburg, New York, in the amount of $174,400. The lowest responsible bidder in conformance with the specifications.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9616 as written.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
So we received seven bids on this project. Empire Paving was the lowest responsible bidder in conformance with the bid spec. We will have a slight change to the streets being paved due to some changes in planned gas work from our good friends National Grid. We have identified other areas throughout the city that are in significant need, and so therefore those streets will be added. The changes may result in a slight increase in cost just because they're being spread out more than the initial streets that we had, but it is still within our CHIPS allotment and within the budget. We'll be meeting with them tomorrow to negotiate the new streets that are on there, and we'll look to keep the price equal. Based on this being the lowest responsible bidder in conformance with the bid spec, I recommend this bid to the council for approval.
Who's doing the patching, like a 12th Avenue and some of the other?
So 12th Avenue is what we will wrap
Roll in.
into. Yeah, we'll wrap that
Roll
into
that
this
in.
as we take the other three streets off. Yes.
You say you wanted this work done by Memorial Day,
Yes.
correct? Now, in the contract, is there a clause in there for penalties if these people don't meet the deadline?
We haven't finalized the contract yet. That'll be done tomorrow, and that'll be based on our meeting with Empire Paving. Since we changed some of the areas that we're doing, we may allow those areas to be completed after the 24th, but the main areas that were in the original bid, we still expect to be done before the 24th. So,
Well, I'm referring to last year where we got in trouble on dates and whatnot.
so yeah, that was through a different contract, of course, and with National Grid's work. This is strictly just the paving. So our CHIPS paving last year was right on time and was finished on time. So that's definitely being kept in mind for this. But if we go a week, later to have them do the, other streets that we had talked about, then we'll still have a deadline on it. So there will be liquidated damages if they don't finish in time. Yes.
Penalty is good, it's an incentive to get it done.
Correct.
right?
They're eager. They wanted to get started Monday, but we have to hold them back because of bulk week. We don't want to be paving a street while we're throwing couches into the garbage truck. So, but we're going to be meeting with them tomorrow. We'll finalize all that info.
Gary?
First,
What side of 12 are you talking about?
So it's 12th Ave. It's basically 12th Ave from 19th Street going south a little bit there, and then we have basically a swipe on 12th Ave between 24th and 25th where it's really chewed up along the curb line as well. So that's a bad spot. So not gonna. Well, we may do the whole street. We'll find that out tomorrow when we negotiate
How
that.
do you hold Gallivan responsible for that?
We don't really have any way to hold them responsible for it.
24/7.
Yeah.
How does that fit into it at all?
We don't have any way to hold anybody accountable that drives on the road, no matter what they're driving on it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Let's hope it doesn't snow by Memorial Day anymore.
Right, yeah, you say that, one more question.
Uh,
Can you label it residential?
You can make them come in the other way.
The only way that we can do that is by saying that the certain weight on certain streets.
How do you get that done?
We've tried that before, and that's off this topic. You can save it for public comment if you want. You can save that for public comment. We're talking about this contract right now. Yes.
So in this contract, Jeremy, are they supposed to be putting in the risers and everything, or are we going to have speed bumps like Broadway?
Oh, same thing. Put in.
Okay.
You keep it all in there. It's all part of the. It was all part of the bid, and will all be part of the contract as well.
Are you milling or taking up?
Milling and paving. Mill of the 1.5, 1.5.
Councilman Petroselli?
In favor.
Councilman McGratty?
In favor.
Mayor Mann?
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9617. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby accepts and approves the proposal from Gomez and Sullivan Engineers with an address of 288 Genesee Street in Utica, New York, for engineering services regarding interconnection upgrades at the Normanskill hydroelectric facility, and further authorizes the expenditure of $58,100 for said engineering services related to the project.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
Yeah, so we previously had an agreement with Gomez and Sullivan Engineers. This is an engineering firm that's doing a lot of different engineering work for us out at the Normanskill area. This particular one is due to upgrades that are necessary at our hydroelectric facility due to National Grid having changed their electrical standards out there. We originally had a contract to complete certain tasks out at the Normanskill for the hydroelectric upgrades, and throughout the process National Grid has continued to change the amount of work that needs to be done out there, mostly the amount of engineering work that needs to be done out there to be approved by National Grid. I believe this information has been distributed to the council for review as to what the changes are that are being made, and Gomez and Sullivan has been great throughout this process, pushing back on National Grid based on this. But to get this work done out there and to get us running at full capacity, this is necessary and a necessary process.
Jeremy, I think at the previous meeting you mentioned that you were going to give us a breakdown of everything that we, let's say, obligated or budgeted and what we've spent toward that budget by Gomez, even for the dam, relicensing and everything.
Okay.
You remember that?
For the relicensing?
Well, yeah, I just want to know, we originally granted a contract under certain things, and then we've had subsequent,
Sure.
obligations and contracts. So can you give us a budget breakdown?
Yeah, I can supply a breakdown. We do have three different contracts with Gomez and Sullivan for three different tasks. Within those, there's obviously many tasks within those as well.
Correct.
I can get you the original budget that was approved and where we're at with those as well. Yes. But overall for our hydro relicensing, we are still below budget through the tasks that we had so far. So they're doing a good job with that one especially. But I'll get that together and get it off to you before the next meeting.
I'm good.
Call roll, Scott.
Councilman Petroselli?
In favor.
Councilman McGratty?
In favor.
Mayor Mann?
In favor.
Mr. Mayor, to the best of my knowledge, that's all we have in new business.
Okay. Anything appropriation in county?
We do have a couple quick announcements up here. If that's okay.
I'll see you now.
You sure? Thanks, Mike. This is a reminder that bulk week begins on Monday. Residents are encouraged to remove bulk items from their property and place them at their normal garbage pickup area on their normal garbage pickup day. Of course, please keep in mind that depending on the amount of bulk items that are placed out throughout the city, the department may be a bit behind on picking them up, so they may be a day or so late in picking up your bulk items next week. All items must fit in an imaginary 4-foot by 4-foot by 8-foot box. Please check the city's website to see what are eligible items to be picked up for this. And this service is only available to Watervliet residents. Also, I was informed this morning that we are finalizing a date for electronic recycling, and it should be sometime in June. We'll keep you posted on when we have a final date for that as well. If there's no questions about that, just want to bring up a couple of other things. The next meeting will not be until May 30th. So between now and then, on behalf of the City Council and the Mayor, I would like to invite everyone to come out to 19th Street or 2nd Avenue and down to Veterans Memorial Park on Memorial Day, Monday, May 27th, for the city's annual Memorial Day Parade. Step off for the parade at 19th Street and 12th Avenue is set for 10 a.m. And leading into that, I'm excited to announce that WTEN Channel 10 will be broadcasting their morning news live from the city of Watervliet on Friday, May 24th. The main broadcast will be live from Hudson Shores Park, and there will also be 2 other crews throughout the city that will be broadcasting from there as well. This is a great event for the city, so please tune in to Channel 10 on the morning of Friday, May 24th, so that you can see all the things that are going on in the city. That's my announcement today.
All right, let's go to public comment period.
At this time, the council has authorized the public comment period. If you wish to address the council, you must step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 2 minutes to address the council on any matters you wish. At the end of your comment, the council may reply or choose to reply at a later date, if they so choose.
Paul Eubank, 1500 12th Avenue, Watervliet. 16th Street was mentioned. Let's go back to the boulevards, National Grid, gas mains in, dug up the boulevards and etc. We're supposed to replace what was there. I don't see anything being done. Are they going to restore what was there?
If you have more, I'll get you when you're done. If you have more to say, I'll get you after. I'll answer what you
Yes, the other issue was potholes. I think we should get on them and get going. I know the weather and the plants and this and that, but we're overdoing those 2 issues.
So we will certainly be getting on the potholes. The 2 reasons that you mentioned were the reason that we are behind on the potholes, but that will be picked up over the next couple of weeks. 16th Street, I did meet with their restoration crews, National Grid's restoration crews out on 16th Street. There was a section there that was not theirs to take care of. It's actually part of Anjo's to take care of, not on the boulevards. But while I was there, they will be coming back out to hydro seed and do any other restoration that's needed in those areas. Part of what they're doing this year is completing where they ended at 16th and Avenue A or 8th Avenue and continuing that to 9th Avenue and Early Drive. So they're going to be doing a little bit further work west of 8th Avenue. So they'll be continuing that, but they'll be coming back out. They did hydro seed some other areas. They didn't do a great job of that because I think they've got more hydro seed on some vehicles than they did on the ground. But we shouldn't have that big of an issue when they come back to rehydro seed the boulevard. So.
Okay, the point is it hasn't been forgotten.
No, absolutely not.
Thank
Nope.
you. Thank you.
Paul Hughes, 108 15th Street. I got 2 things. One was a suggestion for the city that when you have these meetings and it seems like there's the same questions coming up and getting posted to you guys every month about this, whatever they are. But if we give our name and we give our address every time we come up here, if you could correspond back within a month or so to say what the status is on it, so it doesn't have to keep being the same stuff at every meeting. And then the second thing, I'd like to thank the fire department. So I lost my father this month, and you guys have come up to his house for Paul Hughes Sr. You've come up there probably 1,000 times. You've picked him up off the floor, you've brought him to the hospital, you've picked him up out of the shower, you've done everything that you could do for him. And it is greatly, greatly appreciated by me, my mother, my brother, and everybody else in the family. And it's a part of your job that's not part of your job, and we deeply appreciate it. It's not a medical thing. It's not something that you get trained for, to come up and just help pick a guy up and say, are you okay? But it's something that we couldn't do. My father was pushing 400 pounds at times, and for us to be able to deadlift him up, there was no way we could do it. And I thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak? Oh. No, you're not. It's not time.
Here comes trouble.
Never.
Kristen Smelter, 2322 12 Ave. How do we get a weight limit restriction on the north side of 12 Ave from Galvin?
It's a good question. I know we've looked into it before.
I know 25th, the school has a weight limit during 6 a.m. Something like that, there's a weight limit. They're tearing up the road big time. Is there anything you can do to reduce that?
There's another resident on your block that is complaining the same thing about when they stop, it vibrates the house, and she knows she's had.
The city covered the last time they paid, that's no longer covered. And when they get that problem, double out.
Basically a driveway for them right now.
Yeah, just, is there any way to is there any way to reduce the traffic of those trucks? And 99.9% of those trucks are from Galvin.
I'll get with the chief on that, and we'll start taking a longer look at it, see if there's anything we can accomplish. I know it's been looked into before,
And
we weren't able to do it, but take a longer look and see if there's anything that we can do. We'll definitely look into it.
And I want to reiterate to the firemen, my mother passed 5 years ago, but we had to call you well over a dozen times. And in all of those times that we had to call you, our children never got to see you, never had to see you. And the one time that they did see you, you were amazing. Thank you for all the times you showed up for my mother and took care of her. Thank you.
You forgot your alleyway.
Oh, you want me to talk about my alley?
You're another.
I emailed.
Yeah.
I sent Jeremy an email.
You'll have my response to it tomorrow, but
Right, but my question with that is,
Yeah,
you've
so-
already done the rocks,
yeah,
and as you can see, it didn't work.
yep.
I myself, with back issues and a rake, went out and graded one of them, and it's still graded.
Yep.
Talking to Mark, I understand, you grade it, we're gonna have a pond. But is there some other way, other than dumping rocks in the more potholes in my alley than in the city? Is there another way to try to fix that?
So the first, there is other ways that we can do it. They're not accomplishable right now in the spring, summertime, because we have so many alleys that we have to get out and get the rocks in the shale and get them done. So we're going to get those holes filled first, and then in the fall, we're going to come back and see what we can accomplish. I've already spoken to an engineer to be able to see if there's something we can do. We are somewhat limited on that alley because it is right above conduit that we have that runs underneath it. The dry river is right underneath it. So there's certain things that we can't do there. We really don't look to pave that area because of that. We have to be able to get access, but there's other things that we might be able to do, and so we've already spoken to an engineer to see if they can take a look at it.
And we're more than willing to help in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
All right.
Don Whitehead, 1921 8th Avenue. Monday night, they held a presentation here on the Admiral Cleaner project that's coming up. it was a question and answer period, really. If you didn't have the question, you didn't get the answer. So if you didn't know the right question, you didn't get the right answer. Project, first question was, when's it going to start? The answer was, we don't know. Could start in the spring, could not start in the summer. When's it going to end? We don't know. Could be next year, could be the end of this year. What exactly are you going to do? Number one, we're going to tear down a building to get to a tank in the ground that we think might be leaking. The problem I see for the city is they're going to block off 19th Street in front of the building. They're going to take away 3 parking spaces. There's already a parking problem there because of the beauty parlor and the other businesses. We've had them here complaining about the parking, and then you had the residents show up complaining because the customers are parking there. They're going to put up a chain link fence around the whole property. That's going to cut the alley in half. The residents next to that building park in that alley, so there's 2 more cars that are going to be out on the street. So that's another problem. And speaking of the chain link fence, it's going to cut the alley in half. Will the refuge truck be able to get down the alley? Will the fire department be able to get down that alley? Or the police department, where that chain link fence is supposed to go? So I think the city has to look at that diagram that they put up again. And the biggest problem is when this is all done, that property is just going to sit there. It goes back to the owner of the property.
Correct.
And discussion of how much of that concrete slab is going to be pulled up, the answer was only what we have to.
Correct.
So it could be 2/3 of the floor still sitting there. So I think the city really has to look into this project. And the first question is, does the building really have to be torn down? Because the contamination is in the rear of the building. We're not even sure if the fuel tank in the ground is leaking.
So we have been in contact with DEC. We've had multiple meetings with them. Myself, Scott has been working on the communication with them, Paul Labossiere as well as engineer that was hired to do a evaluation of the building to see if its structural integrity. The building is not structurally sound. It is not in dynamic failure right now, but it needed to be secured better to be able to stand, and the property owner refused to do that. The only way for DEC to determine and to test whether or not that tank is leaking or is contaminated is to take the building down. They cannot access it because it was right on one of the pillars that is holding the building up. So the building has to come down to be able to do that. We met with them extensively about this project. The tear down and removal is a 10-day project when that starts. The reason they don't have a start date is because there's a property owner in the area that has caused an issue because one of the telephone poles needs to be moved by National Grid. And that property owner has not signed off on the movement of that yet. So that's what's stalling them from getting started. Their expectation is to start on the 13th of May and be done and have all of it removed by the 24th, which is the weekend before the Memorial Day parade. If they cannot assure that that will be down and removed by then, we've told them they cannot start until after the parade. We won't have that area blocked off during the parade time. So it'll be 10 days that you're talking about with that chain link fence going out to the alley during the tear down. Once the tear down is done and everything is removed, then they're going to move the fence into just the property line and not out to the alley so that they can do the testing. But that's just to make sure they keep everybody off of it. DEC will have control of that until they complete their testing and remediation of it. They're using it's going to be considered a brownfield, and they're using Superfund money to be able to get this done. Once they're done with it, then you are correct. It goes back to the private property owner, and then it's that person's responsibility as to what happens with the property next. But based on what we understand for how long this will take, it's probably a couple of years before that property is released back to the private property owner. So we have been in constant communication with them about this. But that area that you talked about that's fenced off, that'll be 10 days that it's fenced off for, not for that entire 2-year period. We are working with the fire department and sanitation during that 10-day period to make sure that everybody is aware of how to get there and back and get out of there. So, but yes, for 10 days that parking is going to be tough, and 19th Street is going to be somewhat difficult to maneuver. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy, you say that once 10 days is over, it could be up to 2 years before they turn it back over to the owner?
Could be, yes. Yeah.
There's no way they're not going to backfill it? There's no way way the city can backfill it and backfill the owner?
Nobody's going to touch that property while it's DEC's.
No, I'm saying once they say it's yours and you don't want to do nothing, whatever.
Well, they'll come back over. They won't leave it, you know, in a dangerous situation. They'll probably cover it with crusher run and level it, but that's the extent that they'll do it, and then they'll give recommendations as to what can be done with the property.
How come the city hasn't foreclosed on the property?
The city doesn't foreclose on properties.
Turned it over to the county, and the county foreclosed.
The county could
Why did the county foreclose? I'm sorry.
Well, DEC is doing remediation on it, so if the county foreclosed on it, then the county would have to pay DEC for the remediation on it, so.
$400,000.
I would assume, if there's any reason for them to do that, I'm not aware of any, you know, if there's monies owed to the county.
With the new building codes, I'm sure that building won't be the same size as it is now.
No.
Close to the property, the flower place, and the alley.
Don't be able to build
So
that.
is the lot big enough to put a property on there with the new?
Well, you got a some-size house, you want to put on another lot.
Oh, the lot's not 45 by 100, don't you meet the setbacks and the sideline and whatnot. I don't need a variance.
Be a nice parking lot.
Parking lot.
There's going to be a parking lot or
Contaminated, you can put that on a contaminated site.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public comment period. And we're going to do a real quick e-session on personnel issue. I'm making a motion to adjourn the executive session quickly.
A second.
Everyone up here but Chief Garrett is excused. Is welcome to the executive session. Scott, call the roll.
Mayor Manning.
In favor?
Council Petroselli.
In favor.
Mayor Manning. Council McGratty.
in favor.
Meeting is adjourned. We have executive. Say aye.